Hello, I'm Darius. I've studied games both in college and in university. Now I'm working on my own game. It's really just a side project at the moment that's going to function as a portfolio for applying for jobs in the game industry. However, when I get free time, I like to work on this because I haven't done anything like this in the past, and I always wanted to try this kind of thing. So this is a RPG with turn-based combat and all sorts of different customization options, like loads of different classes, different attacks, and then aesthetic things like lots of different customization for your character, how they look. It doesn't look much at the moment because I've been grey boxing everything. I'd like to make sure the mechanics and gameplay are sorted before making it look pretty. Because I know how I want the game to feel, but I might want to change the art style, and it would take time creating new art assets each time I change my mind, whereas I could be putting that time into making sure the fundamentals and the core game side of it is done. Okay, so this is the combat. Like with the characters, the UI is temporary stuff. That's way too intrusive for like a final build of the game. But it displays like the name of the character. So his name is Third Guy because he's the third guy I made. And then your options, so you can fight, use an item, or escape. So we can cycle through these, and they loop around. So clicking on the top one and then going up puts you at the bottom, and bottom going down puts you at the top. I've tried to do this with as many things as I can, so you'll see if I click fight, lists your attacks, and you can do the same. So you can cycle through them all, both backwards and forwards. And these list of attacks you've got is determined by your class and your level. So the class has all the attacks that you can learn as that class, and then in each attack has basically a level requirement. So once you're that level or higher, you then have access to that attack. So just keep it simple for starters. Regular attack. We can click on any of these enemies. You can see that arrow there. And again, like with the buttons, they cycle around. So you can go that way or that way. And then obviously going right goes rightwards and left goes leftwards. Then next person's turn. So this guy's name is Wizard Name. You can fight, and you can see here regular attack, test B, and wizard beam. He doesn't have access to two other things because that's not what his class has. So again, regular attack, and we'll just attack this middle guy. Third guy is going to attack. He has test A, for example. Now you can see it's over the first guy, but we can cycle through all these people. It's a slightly weird order because I've placed in each person manually, but when you fight someone in the actual game, they'd be laid out in order of where they are in that list of people in the party. But we can click on that and see we've killed someone. Now, it would have been nice to show this first, but this first guy, my name, started out as level 1. And he's just leveled up 26 levels because I've given them a whole bunch of XP just for demonstration purposes. Now, because he's leveled up, he actually has gained access to Warrior Strike, which he wouldn't have otherwise had. And so we can click on that. We can click on that. Now, if you looked, he gained 26 levels. He's now gained an extra level because he carried that guy. And I think it's handy if you gain experience per kill rather than at the end of the battle, because that way you get credit even if you don't win the fight. If you manage to take out some enemies, you still get credit for that. So that's the combat, basically all I wanted to show off. You can see on the wizard, just here, if he does test B, yeah, test B, is an ally only attack, and this is like for a heal. At the moment it does do damage, and I've just killed the first guy, but normally that would restore health. So you can see here in the attack, it actually has an ID, name, which is what gets displayed in the button, just a little bit of info about the attack, the power, so how much it adds to your attack power, like for dealing damage, the cost, so like if you think like skill and mana, that kind of idea, that's how much it gets used up. So the base attack does nothing, because otherwise you'd be in a situation where you can't attack. Then here's the level requirement, so level 1, whereas if we look at that Warrior Strike, he had to be level 3. And then here is attack range, so here it says enemy, but I can change that to ally, so that's like the test B, where it only hit allies, self, so it would affect the self, all enemies, which means it would attack all enemies, all allies, which means it would affect all allies, like an AoE heal, hero team, so that's all allies excluding yourself, and then everyone would be like an earthquake kind of effect where it just attacks everyone. Then here we've got the attack type, so this is how much, this determines what you're using as your like fighting power in stats. So physical uses your physical attack, magic is your magic stat, average uses an average of the two, highest uses whichever stat of those two are the highest, combination I think is potentially a really good boss attack, so it uses your attack or your strength plus your magic, and then heal is for the heal. And then likewise we've got your attack reduction, so physical reduction is your defense, magic for resistance, average uses the average, lowest targets the lowest, and heal is a heal. Okay, so this is the character creation system. Like I said, there's lots of different customization options, so this is just to showcase a little bit of that. You can see I've got a whole bunch of different options here, and again, like with all the buttons from the other system and the choosing your character or the target for your attack, this loops around. You can choose whichever one, and then likewise if you want to choose, say, a different, let's say a back feature, so like your wings or a backpack or whatever for your character, you can change that here, and then goes back to there, and then if I go backwards you can put it back there. These are to do with meshes, which I don't have any extras for them just yet, so these are basically just assigning it to empty things, but it's to show that they do this. Then here in height, this is a blend shape, and these are extra blend shapes that I haven't implemented yet, but I have the option to. If we go down, you can see this character slowly shrinks. And as you could imagine, once you get to -100 and then you try going smaller, it puts it at the max value, which is 100. So you see smallest, biggest, and then likewise you could go backwards to smallest, and then likewise you can go here and shrink it, or you can increase it again. And that's all really to show here. Things to note though are that the max height and the min height are the same distance apart, so min height is 0.8 times the height of the normal body, and max height is 1.2 times. I just thought that was a good consideration, so if you were to have 100 in both, it would actually cancel out and be exactly the same as having 0. So there are a few things here that I wasn't able to show off in that menu, but you can see a bit easier here. So these are the blend shapes. You've got your max height and your height min, but then you've also got facial features, so nose depth makes a really long nose, and then nose depth min is the inverse, so shrinks it in, you have a very flat nose, and then you can combine that to have nose width min, shrink it in really deep, basically have hardly any nose available, whereas the opposite is to have a really wide nose. So you can see it's kind of like a triangle shape. I can make it a bit more obvious if I extend out the nose depth, so you can see there, really long nose. So this is obviously a bit goofy looking, but it's also not a final appearance. This is obviously just a test model to show off and showcase the kind of things I'm going to do. But you could have a long nose like this in a fantasy setting. Maybe you've got like a Tengu, or just some sort of character with a long nose. Maybe it's you're making a character stylized in a particular way, maybe off of an existing character. But this was just to show off the the extremities were really just to show off how they look, like to show off that they look like that, or that they function, sorry. Then the last bit here is probably my favourite thing, which is the ear point. So this isn't specifically size, this is just moving a vertex. But this is a fairly human looking ear, and then you can extend this and have maybe an orc or a goblin or an elf ear, and then any kind of range in between. So I thought I should show off some code at least, because this is about coding. And so I picked here the end turn in the battle UI. It goes through each button that it made to list the attacks and removes them from the game. That just is so then there aren't so many buttons that aren't getting used and are clogging up the system, since each time a character gets a turn and chooses to attack, it just starts again and creates new buttons each time, and this reduces the amount of excess buttons that are just making the game run slower. And then also here in the hero class, when they attack, I thought I'd choose to show off damage calculation. Adds a couple of temporary integers. Here is where it calculates what is your attack type, so strength, magic, the average, the highest, and the combination. And then same for the reduction type, and then it uses the targets stat for that. So that's what target script is referencing the person's hero class who you've chosen as a target. And then here we've got basically adding your weapon to the damage, and then reducing the defense that it's target calculated here. Determines crit randomly. Crit is basically just a number between 0 and 100. If you have 10 points of skill, which is just like any other stat like your attack and defense, then that's an extra percentage in your favor. And if you do get a critical hit, that's 3 times the damage. Then references the take damage in your enemy script, and the damage to take, which is either the 3 times of this or just this. And then once the enemy does take damage, checks if they're dead and updates their health bar. So yeah, I hope that was everything I needed to show off and explain. Hopefully I've explained it well. I'm not always the best at this kind of thing, but that should give a good taster of the things that I've been working on, the things I plan to do, the things that I've been learning. Like I said, this is new to me, because I've usually been coding stuff like gameplay that happens in real time, so like movement in a 3D environment, and then like colliders with your attacks and interacting with people and such. That's what I'm going to implement soon with this game, is moving a character in the 3D space, and then you interact with a building to recruit a new character, and interact with an enemy in the overworld to initiate combat, rather than it just being called from the start of the game. Yeah, and I think that's everything. Yeah, so hopefully that's everything. I'm sure I've forgotten something. There are a few things that don't actually get shown off here that I've got, but they're not super major. This should give a good example of everything I can do. I hope. And yeah, that should be everything. So please let me know what you think. And if this is going out to someone who potentially might be hiring me, I hope this is good. A good demonstration, and I hope to look forward to working with you potentially. And yeah, and with that I think I'll end this video, because I might just drag on for ages about nothingness. So yeah, thank you for watching and taking your time to look at this. Please let me know what you think, and I hope to speak to you soon. Have a good day, and goodbye.